You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
All right, leaders, whether you're running a shop, leading a team, or leveling up in your career, you know details matter. And if you're like me, that includes keeping your beard on point. That's why I trust the Bearded Brotherhood. Their beard oils, beard balms, and mustache waxes, among other, are made with all natural ingredients, no junk, no shortcuts, just top-tier quality that keeps my beard looking sharp and feeling great. And let's talk scents. Whether it's their best-selling Woodsman or my personal favorite, Lone Stranger, the Bearded Brotherhood keeps me smelling fresh and my beard stays soft all day. If you take your beard game seriously, this is the stuff that you need. And because you're part of the Limitless Leadership podcast family, I've got a deal for you. Just visit thebeardedbrotherhood.co/lead15 to grab your favorite products and get 15% off in the process, because a great leader deserves a great beard. Now, back to today's episode. Hey guys, welcome back. Before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you need to for social media purposes so we can reach people and build leaders. Speaking of leaders, I'm joined by another leader here today, a leader by the name of Chris Enright, who is a shop owner of Enright Automotive out of, help me out, Chris, out of Ohio, correct?
Yep.
Okay, out of Ohio. He's also a husband and a father, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. He's also an amazing content creator. If you're in the automotive repair industry, you know who I'm talking about because he does a great job of leveraging social media and also doing a great job of serving his guests, serving his community. So Chris, man, thanks for being here. Glad to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Well, Chris, man, before we get started, go ahead and share with the audience kind of who you are, but also how you got into the automotive industry, how you became a shop owner, what that process may have looked like for you. And also, we're going to learn more about the social media thing here in a bit, but go ahead and share with the audience who you are.
Yeah, so I have been in the industry for almost 17 years. I got into the industry. I was actually, like a lot of people, into cars and liked modifying my own cars. I was one of those Honda guys. And so I went to UTI for schooling. And then after I graduated from UTI, I could not find a job, which is much different than nowadays. And so I actually went from school to working for a company on the road, and I hated it. So then I went from there to working at Napa because I literally could not find a job at a shop anywhere at that time. And so Napa was the gateway. I was a parts delivery person, and that was the gateway to me getting my first job at an independent shop. And the guy that I replaced there had been working for him for like 18 years or something crazy like that. And I was brand new to the industry. So I was thrown to the wolves and had the fast track of learning and worked there for a couple years. And I guess the rest is history as far as like being in the industry. And then starting my own shop was out of frustration. I had worked at a few dealerships and a few independent shops, and it never really had like a great experience, unfortunately. Never had great work culture. I felt like I was never treated well. And a lot of that is perspective, I will say, but I definitely didn't have like an amazing experience. And there was just some things going on at the dealerships that I worked at that I did not like, as far as the honesty side of things and so on and so forth. So like most techs turned shop owner, I thought I could do it better for cheaper. And so that's how I started my shop. And I started February of 2020. So a month before COVID.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, great timing.
So February of 2020, and by the way, I appreciate you sharing the frustrations that you had early on. You know, what's interesting is even as a leadership coach, a lot of what we talk about, what we coach each other on, is this concept of people don't necessarily leave bad jobs; they might leave bad leaders, and it's because the leaders aren't providing clarity and direction. The culture itself is not one that's conducive to a healthy workplace environment. And a lot of us don't feel valued. We don't feel seen. We don't feel heard or recognized. And that's what is prompting people to start looking elsewhere, thinking maybe the grass is greener on the other side. So yeah, everything you're sharing is certainly, I think a lot of people can relate to what you're sharing. I'll ask you, what was the transition like going from employee to employer just 5 years ago?
Very hard. Definitely one of the, if not the hardest thing I've done in my life. Um, you know, you think you know a lot, and then you start a shop and you realize you don't really know that much. Even just working on cars, to be quite honest, and both the dealerships I worked at were Honda dealerships, and I've always loved Honda. So I've primarily worked on Hondas my entire career. Um, I've worked on other makes, of course, and I still do now, but not as thorough and as experienced as I am with Honda. So then I started my own shop, and that was tough, just bringing in other stuff that I'm not used to. And then, of course, going from technician to owner, advisor, parts guy, businessman, uh, you know, so on and so forth. So it's a lot. It's very, very hard. Uh, but if you do it right and you take the time to be self-aware and grow yourself, it is worth it. I would say if I had continued on my original path, I'm convinced I wouldn't be in business, or I'd be so stubborn like a lot of other owners that I've seen, that I would just be like, this is the way I'm doing it, and barely be getting by, which is not, I don't recommend that. It's terrible.
What changed for you? What was the turning point?
So like when I started my shop, one of my goals is I wanted to hire technicians and be able to pay them well. I always felt like I was underpaid. And I know a lot of technicians say that, and there are a lot of technicians out there that are underpaid, and there are some that think they're worth a lot more and they're not. So there is that, of course. There's a lot of owners who think they're great and they're not. So there's a lot of work we have, of course, as just as a society as a whole. And I was following Cody Gaddy, who was doing YouTube. He doesn't really do it much anymore, but he's a mobile programmer on YouTube. And he was on ASOG, Automotive Shop Owners Group podcast. And then I started listening to that podcast, and they started talking about numbers. And I had no idea anything about my numbers. I didn't know anything about margins, markup, nothing. I was just charging what I thought I should charge, and all of those things. And so I started digging into my numbers, and I was like, holy crap, I am not really making that much money, and I'm working a lot. And I remember looking at my wife, and I was like, there's no way we could ever pay anybody what we're making now. Like, we couldn't pay anybody good money to come work here at what we're charging. So then that forced me to go to training. And then that's really what started opening my eyes, is I realized that I wasn't doing a lot of things right. And there was a lot of things I did not know, which helped. I had to really step back and admit that I wasn't doing it good.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, as a coach, I love hearing this, because you recognize the opportunity that we don't yet see. We have blind spots. We all have blind spots. If you're listening thinking, hey, Josh, I don't have a blind spot, that's a blind spot. And so when you can invest in training and invest in coaching, finding people who you trust to speak truth into your life, personally and professionally, man, it goes such a long way. I mean, prior to going live on this recording, you shared with me that you're a father, 2 kids. 7 and 4, correct?
Yeah.
So if I'm doing the math, you did all this, right? I mean, you had one toddler and then one that was on the way. I can imagine the stress and the anxiety and the sleepless nights that you have. I know this because as an entrepreneur, I know how hard it is to go from employee to employer. And you jump out of the employee seat when you're wearing one hat, which you're wearing a hat of a technician, and now you're wearing all these hats. And it's like, hold on a second. I didn't expect this, nor do I even know how to properly wear this hat. How important is it for someone who's listening to this episode right now? They are a disgruntled technician thinking, you know what? It's my time. I'm going to go and start my own thing. I'm going to go and launch my business and jump into entrepreneurship as a shop owner. How important is it for that individual to invest in themselves and get some help from training, coaching, what have you?
It's the number one investment you can make. Looking back, I wish I had known. I had no idea about training or anything. So, and I had been in the industry, like I said, for a very long time before I even started my shop. I wish I had known about training. But it's the most important thing you can do before you start your shop. Get that training. I tell new techs all the time, or not new techs, but techs that want to be new owners all the time. Go now before you officially start your shop, so you can be a step ahead of where I am now, where most owners are, because there's so many owners who have never gone to training. It for me to go to ASTE at that time, pay that money because I obviously it's expensive. Plus, I lost revenue, of course, for having the shop closed because it's still just me, or at that time it was me too. And never having gone to anything like that. So nothing ever in my life, like not just automotive, I mean, as a whole, never paying for some sort of training or convention or anything of that nature. So it was all very new to me. I went by myself. So it was just new. It was very different, but I don't miss it now. I don't miss training that I want to go to because I have seen the fruits in my business and my personal life and my family life, everything. So it's extremely important.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly an investment. You give up a little bit or you give up a lot, but ultimately you're getting a lot in return, a lot more in return. I mean, with any investment, you give something up to get way more in return. And that's exactly what it is. You mentioned ASTE, now they're ASTA, and the ASTA Expo is this fall. I'll see you there in September at the Raleigh Convention Center. So if you're listening and you're thinking, hey, maybe I need to start heeding some advice from Chris and actually start investing in myself and going to training, the ASTA Expo is a fantastic opportunity. I went last year for the first time. I was a first-time attendee last year, really enjoyed it, and looking forward to being back this year. This year it's at the Raleigh Convention Center, pretty massive arena, if you will, which it looks really exciting for this year. But September 25th through 27th, if you're listening. Let me go back to the question that we started with too, Chris. Let's say you're going to help a current technician make the decision to eventually step out in faith and start their own company. What kind of runway would you give them? Like you're saying, hey, go to training first. Are you saying like invest in yourself for 6 months or a year? Like what kind of runway are you giving them?
I think that's going to be different for everybody. We're all in different places. We all learn differently. I think being self-aware is going to be extremely important. Like I said, as a society as a whole, we're not extremely self-aware, unfortunately, because that's going to be a huge basis on how well you're willing to look at your faults and not faults, but places you can better yourselves, places you can grow, essentially. And so that's going to be a big difference. But on the same token, I will say, like, I have guys text me or message me on social media all the time telling me they want to start their own shop, and they've been doing it for like a year. They've been a tech for a year, maybe 2 years. And I'm like, hey, listen, focus on growing your skill set first, understand and learn the industry as a whole, and just be a better technician, be a better diagnostic tech. I always tell people, the best investment you can make is Scanner Danner Premium. I think it's still like $15 a month and the book's $99. I don't get anything from saying that either. Sorry, I have to say that. So it's one of the best investments you can make in yourself, and then learn and spend time growing. There's so many YouTube channels out there and so many podcasts. There's literally limitless information, and we don't use it. It's crazy to me. So I would say, again, it's going to be different for everybody, but I don't know, at minimum 5 to 7 years. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be somebody who disproves me on that and is like, oh, I was only in the industry for 3 years. I don't want to limit anybody, but as far as like understanding, just being the technician side, if you're going to be the main tech in the shop and do like I've done, then you got to have experience fixing the cars and know how to get yourself out of situations if you mess something up or whatever the case may be. You got to know how to diagnose them and all of that. So that's a big part of it, of course, just the actual mechanical skill set and diagnostic skill set.
By the way, I like how you're dropping the word like limitless and no limits and stuff. Appreciate that. So all good. I appreciate it anyway. So yeah, and you're right, Chris. We have the resources. A lot of us are not necessarily being resourceful with the resources. You mentioned YouTube. Let's shift gears for a second, because you have a heavy presence on YouTube. You have a heavy presence on most social media platforms, at least that I'm aware of: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Help me out if I'm forgetting anything. But Facebook. Oh yeah, okay. And I know, like on Instagram, for example, in fact, collectively, Chris Enright and I have 126,000 followers on Instagram, and he has 125 of them. So, together we're doing some big things on Instagram. So, so Chris, I'll ask you though, man, how have you been able to leverage social media that for your business? Because what I see is you have a lot of followers, but I know that you're getting a lot of great customers through this as well.
So I've actually built my social media a little differently. If you look at, I always point people to like Royalty Auto. They do a great job. They have a massive following as well, and they've done an extremely good job. Now they're in a different position than, of course, I am. They have a full-time editor and someone who does their content creation. It's Sherwood's son, and the fact of social media that you can leverage it and use it for your business is such an important thing. I won't say I get a ton of people from social media to my business. I've actually turned social media into an additional source of revenue. So I actually make quite a bit of money from doing social media, from brand collaborations, ad revenue, things like that. So that's where I make a lot of money, because I got to the point where I'm like, I'm doing all this social media content and it helps me. Don't get me wrong. Like, one of the things when I was teaching classes with Brian Walker at these training events, I would tell people is like, I started seeing, like, I could finally see where my marketing, my website, my social media, my blog post, everything was working together. People were watching my videos, which is drawing them to my website, which helps improves everything as a whole. So it was like this full circle thing, and I could actually physically see it happening, which was awesome. Until you actually start doing it and see it, it's really hard for me to explain. But because I pay so much attention to all of that stuff, it was really, really neat. And I tell people all the time, social media is free, by the way. You don't have to pay anything for ads, and you can, and absolutely you can use that to your leverage, but you don't have to. And anybody who doesn't do free marketing for their business is crazy to me, because marketing is not cheap. So I highly recommend it to everybody. And we can go into details on like how they can use it, what I recommend, and all of that. But yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I am curious, like what tool or tools do you have available that will allow you to see where your followers or customers or source of revenue is coming from? Like if someone goes to your YouTube first and then goes to your website, how do you, like, what tool are you using for that?
So each platform has its own analytics. So you can actually look at all of that on each platform, which is super nice, especially like I would say Instagram's really good, and TikTok's pretty good as well. YouTube seems to be the best, especially when it comes to ad revenue and whatnot. Um, but I don't do as much long form as I would love to, because it does take me quite a bit longer to do long form video. And I don't do a ton of editing. I've created what I've created off of doing almost no editing. And it's worked for me thus far. But you can do it with a ton of editing. Like there's so many different ways you can create content. It's whatever works best for people. But yeah, I go off of those analytics, and I don't look at them all the time, but I do go through phases where I take deep dives. It really just depends on how busy the shop is. Because as much as I do love social media, currently in my current season, the shop still is where my main source of revenue comes from. So although we do really well on social media, the shop is still what supports my family and my kids, of course. So that's what's important to me. So if I'm super busy here in the shop, I'm taking a back seat a little bit to social media and focusing on the shop, and vice versa. If I'm a little slower in the shop, then I'll start pushing social media a little bit more.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. Well, so let me ask you, how do you see social media evolving in the automotive repair industry in the next few years, let's say?
I don't know how, I guess I can't say how I would see it evolving, but what I would like to see, because there's not a ton of shop owners on social media, just a ton of technicians. There's very few shop owners, and most of the few shop owners that are on there, their content is very boring. Um, it's too cliche, too cookie cutter. And I see a ton, like my For You page is almost all automotive stuff. So I see a ton of it. And you see these shops and they have a couple hundred followers, and every single video is maybe 100 views, maybe 200 views, because it's the atypical, boring, like, hey, why do you recommend this? Or what do you think about these rotors or something? And it's just not, people don't care about a cookie cutter cliche video. They want to see authenticity. They want to see you being you. They want to see your text being your text. Have fun, enjoy it. Don't make it this like very rigid planned out. I mean, you can, don't get me wrong, it's not bad to do that stuff. It's just not going to crush it or do extremely well. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. I think it's better than not doing it at all. But if you really want to stand out, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do something different. People don't remember a brown cow, they remember a purple cow.
There you go. I like it. That's yeah, very well said. And you said the key word too, authenticity. Even when you're describing how your videos earlier, not a lot of editing. You don't do a lot of editing, but you've developed this following based on your authenticity. I mean, people appreciate authenticity, humility, vulnerability. That's how we connect with people. Speaking of people, I'll ask you, what does your team look like at Enright Automotive?
You see it.
Yeah. Okay.
This is the team. My wife is an employee. She helps, but she homeschools our kids and stuff like that. I always say without her, the business would have shut down about 50 times. So she's my support. But yeah, it's just me as of right now. I had an admin for about 6 months. And like end of January was her last day. So it's back to me for now. And I'm in a weird situation in a weird area. We're about 4 miles from the new Intel microchip plant here in Ohio. And so it's been a couple years now since they started that. We started actually looking before that, and properties were around 350, maybe 500 grand. Now there's nothing under $1 million in the area. So it's, at the end of the day, it's still just an excuse that I keep telling myself, but we have been looking, and every year I look more and more and more. And we just keep trying to save up money to put ourselves in a better position to be able to buy or build or whatever that looks like. Whenever that opportunity arises. Very
cool, man. Hey, I can relate to this. You and I are in the same situation. We're riding solo, but our spouses are like, my wife is, man, I could not do this without her, because man, it's not easy. But my intent was actually to segue into a leadership question, because, most of us want to be great leaders. We want to lead people effectively, but in order to lead people effectively, we also need to lead ourselves effectively. And that's, you and I are both in that same kind of boat right now, working on a lot of self-leadership. I'll ask you, what has it been like for you to learn and develop your own leadership skills as a solopreneur? And also, what does leadership mean to you?
So what it looks like for me is I actually listen to a lot of leadership podcasts. I have for a long time. I read like not just leadership books, but I read books. I do audio books as well. And I always have tried to look at situations. I'm a big fan of the book Extreme Ownership, and I try to look at situations that happen as, where could I have improved? What did I mess up? Like, there's always places we can improve, I feel like. And I see it in a lot of these owner groups where people come in and they ask all these questions, and they're, hound on their employees with all this stuff. And I'm like, did you have a conversation? And they've not yet even had a conversation with the person. And I'm like, why are you in here complaining to us when you've not even talked to that person themselves? And I think that's a big part of leadership as a whole, is being able to have hard conversations, being able to be humble and transparent. One of the things that we talked about earlier about being authentic is, being transparent, being yourself. Not, like, we help a lot, or we used to help a lot at our previous church with the youth. And so they would come to our house and they would ask my wife, they'd be like, what's Chris like when we're not around? She's like, what do you mean? She's like, this is Chris. I am me no matter who I'm around. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to. And I think that helps. I think that if you're just true, transparent, honest, and authentic with people, that helps as a leader. So, yeah. And then I forget your second question. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So the second question is, what does leadership mean to you?
Leadership is, I think, the key to all business as a whole. The old saying, everything starts at the top and works its way down. You can see that in many things. And so, as a leader, you're the skinny neck of the funnel. You're what holds the business back. You're what keeps things restricted. So you have to constantly be working on yourself and growing and improve your leadership. And then you can see great leaders. That's why they do so well, is because they're able to delegate to people, to be an example to people, to motivate people, so on and so forth.
So good, man. And I like that analogy, the skinny neck of the funnel. I think that's very well said. Chris, I'll ask you, what do you enjoy most about being a shop owner? Now that you went from employee to employer, what do you enjoy most about being a shop owner, and what motivates you day in and day out?
It's a great question. Um, I like the freedom. That's probably the number one thing is freedom. Obviously, with it still being just me, I am still limited on like exactly what I can do. But like last week, I left at 3 o'clock and went and played pickleball for an hour and a half. Like being able to do that. Obviously, if I'm working for someone else, I can't be like, "Yo, peace, I'm out. I'm going to play some pickleball. Appreciate you guys." But I like the freedom. And I also like the challenge. I'm a big challenge person, so I I refuse to lose, and so I will do everything in my power to complete my goal, and then I'll move on to another one. I'm very center focused, so I like that. I like the challenge of it because it is very hard, very very hard, and there's a ton to learn because it's not just like we said numbers and the business and clientele and marketing and all these things, but it's also leadership and growing yourself and just there's so much to it.
One of my favorite books is called "Never Split the Difference" by Chris Voss, and and he's got a great quote towards the end where he says, "When the pressure is on, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to our highest level of preparation." And we talked about how you love challenges. Like what I see in you, Chris, is someone who rises to the occasion. Like, I mean, and it's because you're prepared. Like you're regularly preparing yourself. You're listening to podcasts. You're reading books. You're working on investing in yourself through coaching, through training, through networking, because you are a great networker. Something I haven't even talked about is the reason I even know who you are is through my own listening to podcasts and seeing you on the Facebook groups and seeing you chime in and help other owners who are dealing with challenges. And you are a great I'll say beacon of light for the industry because we need a lot more folks like a Chris Enright who's willing to step up and step out and help folks who are struggling because they don't understand the importance of investing in themselves. They don't know, the importance of finding someone who they're willing to allow to speak truth into their life. So I want to give you props for that. And just share that quote. But I also want to hang on this topic for a bit and talk about books for a second. So you shared Extreme Ownership. Give us like one or two other recommendations. What books would you say are top of your list?
How to Win Friends and Influence People and Buy Back Your Time are definitely high on my list. Shout out Brian Walker, who recommended me Buy Back Your Time. That's a big one, especially if you're smaller. I mean, it's important for everybody, but it basically talks about how everything's in exchange for your time. Time is extremely valuable. So it you put everything in quadrants and you figure out like what's important, what's not, what to say yes to, what to say no to, so on and so forth. So that helps a lot. It helped me a lot for sure. It just gave me a completely different perspective. And then I always recommend E-Myth Revisited. I think it's just a really good processes book that I think everybody should read just in general, honestly. But yeah, for business owners, essentially, it's an essential book for sure.
That was the first book I picked up after jumping into this terrifying world of entrepreneurship was the E-Myth. And I just bought Buy Back Your Time not too long ago. I haven't finished it. But I'll ask you because I'm a big believer in recognizing like your time really is, time is money to some degree. And so let's say let me ask you this. Let's say there's a business owner who's listening. You're about to coach me, Chris, because this question is also for me. Here's where I struggle with. At times, I struggle with just shutting it down, saying, you know what? I had a very productive day. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. Today was not only a busy day, but it was a productive day. But at some point, I need to shut it down. I got a family here. I got 4 kids. I need to make sure that I'm not pouring from an empty cup. Speak to, go ahead and coach me and tell me, how can I compartmentalize and recognize that I need to shut it down. It's okay if I'm not working, which means I'm not ultimately not making money. Give me some feedback here, Chris.
I can't take credit for any of this because it's my wife who forces me to do this. And I will take a little bit of credit, but only because of a situation. And actually, I think this is a great segue into something else that's important that we don't talk about much as business owners. But my wife is the one who forces me and has given me a different perspective on shutting down. And I will say in the beginning, when I started making changes and whatnot, I was working Saturdays, I was working late nights, so on and so forth. Obviously, having a toddler at home and a young daughter, um, I started realizing that it's much more important to spend time with them. If I don't spend time with them and I build this empire or whatever, but I lose my family, then what's the point? There's nothing left over. You got to have something in your life to have purpose, and your family is a great purpose to work for. So, but she's helped me with perspective and taking time off and recharging, so on and so forth. But I also had I wouldn't call it like a major health scare, but I had some issues where I thought I was having a heart attack. I was having panic attacks, tons of pain in my left side and my chest. I ended up having ribs out of place, which was causing me a ton of pain in my back, my neck, my shoulder. It was like almost debilitating. I think that's the right word. Like at the end of the day, I was basically just like, I felt like I was worthless, like I couldn't do anything. Found out what was going on, started getting fixed. Now I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I go work out at the gym. I cold plunge, I sauna. Like I had to like take a really hard look at my life and realize like, hey, I have to take care of me first and make sure I'm healthy and able to run this business, to take care of clients, to generate revenue, to support my family. Like it's all works together. And it's one thing we miss often is taking care of ourselves. We eat like garbage. We work 14, 16 hours a day. We'll work weekends. We neglect our families. It's very prevalent in this industry as a whole, and it's not good. You got to take care of yourself first. And I'm not void of guilt here, or not guilt, but uh, blame here. I have done it myself. I've seen it myself in my own life, and so I had to really make some serious changes. And I am blessed to have an extremely supportive wife, because she started waking up at 4:30 in the morning with me, and now she works out and she does the cold plunge, and she decided because I was doing it, she was going to do it as well. If she didn't do that, I think that would make it much harder on me. So that does help. And I think the husband and wife, if you're married, that's going to be a big deal. If you're not married, you can still do it. There's tons of motivational things, accountability partners, friends. There's so many other things you can still do. So please don't misunderstand me, but it does help. It's a big part of, why I am who I am and where I'm at and so on and so forth. So I can't take all the credit for sure.
Chris, that's great, man. If you're listening and you're not married, but you want to start this, just turn on Chris Enright's YouTube channel and just play the videos on repeat. And that's the motivation that you need every day. So, hey man, thanks for being here, Chris. I'll ask you a couple more questions. One of them is, what is the greatest advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor?
Oh, it's a great question. One of the, I dealt with, like many owners, I dealt with emotional discounting. I think it's a very big, and I'm not one of those people who's like anti discounts ever. I am anti a lot of discounts and discounting your services and value. But one of the greatest pieces of advice, it was from Cecil Bullard, and he said, um, next time you feel like giving a discount, put money in your pocket. And when you go to give them a discount, don't take it off their bill. Just hand them $100 bill and give them $100 off their bill with you giving them cash, because that's what you're doing. And you don't realize that in the moment. You think you're just discounting the bill, but you're quite literally taking money out of your own pocket. And I'm not against helping people. We absolutely should help people. I think as an industry, we are one of the most helpful and generous industries as a whole. I see it constantly. I see it with GoFundMe's. I see it with people giving discounts. I see it with people helping people that literally just don't have money to fix their cars, for like all of the hurricane stuff that happened during ASTA last year, and all the, we're absolutely, but help them from your profits. Help the people that need help from your profits, and charge what you need to charge to run a successful, profitable business, so you can be a blessing on every occasion.
That is strong. I appreciate you sharing that, Chris. Very good. And so last question, how can our audience get in touch with you? Where can they find you on all the social media platforms?
It's Enright underscore automotive on Instagram, Enright Automotive on Facebook, and I think YouTube, Enright Auto. Sorry, it's Enright Auto on YouTube. If you just type in Enright Automotive, you will be able to find me on whatever platform that you type that in on. I am on pretty much all the platforms, and I do, fun reviews. I do automotive shop stuff. TikTok, I get more in depth, talking more of stuff like this and things I do around the shop, and something I want to do more on YouTube. I've done several videos on starting a shop and whatnot, but it's something I want to do a lot more of because there's a big need for it, especially for new shop owners and people like I was in my position. That's my goal. I want to help people understand the business. I want to help people understand why they should be charging their worth so they can help more people.
Love that. Very good, Chris. Man, hey, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Every episode, you know that we look to transform our leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great day. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.